Hello everyone, Plastic Geek here. Welcome back to a brand new video today. I'm joined by Ronnie again. How are you?
I'm alright, mate. I was just having a bit of a munch on a biscuit. So
What kind of biscuit is it?
It was a posh Lotus, finest since 1932.
Ah, very good. I'm more of a chocolate digestives kind of guy myself. I think biscuits need to have a bit of taste in them.
I'm more of a jammy dodger, Jaffa Cakes kind of guy, but we've not.
They're very nice as well. I'll give you that. Anyway, today we're going to be reviewing episodes 4 and 5 of Series 1 of Doctor Who, Aliens of London and World War III, the first multi-part story in the revived series. That means, the first two-parter and the first time we have a cliffhanger, which is a staple of the franchise, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this story often does get a bit of flack. It's often... Because people will say, it's the one with the farting aliens, the Slovene.
It's not necessarily because of the writing or, the plot, really. It's just the fact of the
Slovene.
The cringy farty aliens.
Yeah, but as of late, like in recent years, it has sort of had a bit of a renaissance. But anyway, me and Ronnie, we're going to take a look at this two-part story and see if it's any good. Let's go. So as we always do, we'll start off with the Doctor, Christopher Eccleston. He's just fantastic, isn't he?
Of course, there is a recurring joke that's going to make an appearance in every single episode. Yeah, he is obviously great in this episode.
I'd say this is one of his more comedic performances.
Yes.
It is very much him, like, having fun. Like, he's relishing in the fact that there's this alien spaceship that's crashed, isn't there?
Yeah, it's sort of the side of, like, he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit like that. He doesn't really care, but he wants to obviously still save the day.
Yeah.
But he's more excited to see Earth progress.
Mm-hmm. And it's like he's saying, like, this is what I travel for, Rose, to see history happen right in front of me. It's very much him having fun, but then obviously there are the more serious moments, like at the end when he's on the phone to Jackie and he's like, it isn't fun, it isn't smart. It's just someone making a stand and like that. Bit, yeah. It's kind of reminiscent of what Rose would say in Part of the Ways later in the series.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I just realised, yeah. But it's also the first appearance of Harriet Jones.
We'll get on to Harriet Jones in a minute. We'll get on to the side characters. So obviously I have Rose, who I don't really have much to say on this in this episode.
No, she's not. She's underplayed, I think. Believe it or not.
She's not bad. It's quite cool to see like her returning home, but I don't really have a load to say. She doesn't really do loads in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... She's not really a main focus. I'd say Mickey's more of a main
Mickey and Jackie, you definitely get to see how it impacted them. Jackie had to live... they're returning from Rose. Jackie had to live for 12 months.
Without a daughter.
Yeah, and obviously Mickey is the suspect. Could have got questions. And it's still sadly relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very...
We won't get into it, but it's really... sadly relevant.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
It is. And, I mean, you have also got some cool action scenes, like when they're fending off the Slovene in Part 2, which is very good. But, yeah, Mickey and Jackie were really good in this episode, I feel. And it is really good how they sort of address that, yes, there was a mistake. The Doctor, obviously took about 12 months later, and how much that impacted.
Affected
their lives. Because I think I said this on one of the other ones. In Classic Who, you didn't really have that as much.
No. I mean, and you do get to see the first of Classic Who of like the Doctor's identification on Earth.
Oh yeah, Unit is referenced, isn't it?
Yeah, and like obviously when Jackie calls, obviously the government and says obviously Blue Box, TARDIS, Doctor, obviously he's on file, so the government obviously know about him. It's the first sort of mention of him working with the government and the government's and Earth's knowledge of the Doctor.
It is quite interesting, yeah. And also we have another introduction of an iconic character that Ronnie desperately wants to talk about, I can tell.
MP for Florida North herself, it's Harriet Jones.
Yes, I mean, she obviously returns in Christmas Invasion and The Stolen Earth as well.
Yes.
And she's just a great character, isn't she? I'll let you talk about her.
I mean, my love for Harriet Jones is bursting right now. But she's just such a comedic. She's smart. She's obviously a future Prime Minister, and I think obviously she's underestimated of how good she is. Like at the start, she's obviously just a sort of a nerdy backbencher. She doesn't really enforce any of the laws. She doesn't really have a say. But now, when it comes to the Doctor, it just shows how the Doctor gives her a chance.
She's very capable, isn't she?
Yeah. and she's obviously given that opportunity by the Doctor. I think one of the lines he says is, like, you're very good or something. He just, like, you're very well at this or something. Like, he says that when obviously she's giving him information. It just shows how, like, her knowledge of wiseness, should we say.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Penelope Wilton, I think that's the actress's name.
Yeah.
She's wonderful, and she's just a really capable character, very likeable, very iconic, and actually speaking of that, when I was watching it, I was half expecting Gustav Matlock to show up. Gustav Matlock, MP. And there's some other pretty cool characters in this story. You've got, like, obviously the Slovene, which we'll get onto in a minute, but you've got there was this one of the characters, one of the police officers, the guards. He's often been told by the Slovenes as the humans, like, do this, do that, and you often see that it's like he's under everyone's thumb. I don't know. He always stood out to me.
Yeah. Is he like the Welsh one?
He's the Welsh one. Well, do what he said then.
Yeah, he fires his gun and says, run.
Him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like he stood out. He's like he's under everybody's thumb. Like everybody's ordering about, and he's
even
like.
though he's like one of the minor characters.
Yeah, I kind of feel sorry for him. And also, I wanted to mention Tosh, who is in Torchwood as well. But she was in the first part of this story, investigating like the space pig.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and it was really cool because obviously Torchwood wasn't a thing at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool, and I think because like in I don't know if you have you watched Torchwood.
I watched the first episode, I think.
Basically, like Tosh is the technology person,
right?
And there's another character, Owen, who is like the medic, and I think Tosh was like covering for him. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's really cool seeing her in it, and it's like it's just great.
Yeah.
Oh, and before we get onto this thing, we have to mention the space pig.
Mate, the space pig, it's awful, to be honest, but it's also freaky and sad, and
I love him.
I love him and I hate him because he's creepy than anything, but he's also, it's awful. Obviously, it's just like a pig, and they strapped him in a spacesuit, mess with his mind,
It's quite sad, So let's talk about the Slovene, the monster of the story. What do we think of them?
To be honest, I think they're a bit childish at times, a bit immature, but they bang. I think they're legends. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm. I like them. I think they're quite cool.
Yeah.
The design's pretty cool. Pretty quirky.
Yeah. It's obviously very alien. Obviously, like, it's very like sort of stereotypical alien, green, massive heads, massive eyes.
Mm-hmm. You have actually. Now that I look at them, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head. But like another thing that I was just thinking about is that, like, obviously they're not exactly bent on world domination. They're just trying to make a profit, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean they're not going to rival for me the Daleks or the Cybermen or the Ice Warriors,
the Master or anything.
the Sontarans.
Like not trying to like destruct humans and whatever. But
they're a pretty cool villain. They're like mid-tier villain.
Yeah.
I like them. Although. There's some stuff which I find really dumb. Like the zip on their head, it just feels a bit like 1 minute it's completely clean, and then the next minute there's a zip. All of a sudden, like I don't get it.
And it's not like any of the skin suits have got a fringe, so you can't hide a massive zip. So it's a bit, what's going on there? It's confusing.
Yeah, and surely you'd see it as well. It's a bit odd.
Yeah.
And the thing that does kind of get on my nerves is the fart jokes. It's like, I mean.
Yeah.
I'll get into this later about the politics of it, because there is a quite good metaphor that I've heard, but some of the fart jokes, and like, constantly...
I think the only fart joke that we can allow is, do you mind not farting when I'm saving the world?
That was funny. I'll tell you what, that was funny.
That's the only one we can allow.
That was actually quite funny. And if they just did it sparingly, then that would be fine, but... I mean, there's scenes there's plenty of scenes where they just...
Like when all the... like every single one of the Slovene members of obviously
the family,
different are coming, and then like one just lets out a massive fart and goes, "Oh, that's a spirit." Just you don't need it.
Yeah, and the bit where one of them goes, "I'm shaking my booty," I cringe so hard at that.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I literally want to burn my eyes out.
Yeah, but other than that, the Slovene are pretty cool monsters. So let's talk about the whole two-part approach, because part one is very much the build-up. Part two is the where all the action scenes are. So I really like in Aliens in London, like the whole build-up and the world building and the character. Because obviously it's setting up the characters. It's reintroducing some characters, setting up all these things like the spaceship crash.
Yeah.
What the Slitheen are, you see them mysteriously. And yeah, I quite like it.
Yeah, like you say.
It's probably the weaker part of the story, but I do still really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, the first, like you say, 20 or so minutes is just like a flashback to what, like, the events of after Rose.
Kind of,
like,
yeah.
Obviously, you get, you know, do you get to see Rose going to the TARDIS again?
I think there is a little like
right?
teaser thing
Like,
from
there's
like a
little
trailer
bit of it.
from Rose, but yeah.
And
But yeah,
then
you are right. Yeah,
obviously
it is sort of
you
like
see the bad wolf from the TARDIS. That's a thing as well.
yes, there
Bad
is
Wolf
that as
makes
well.
the return. And
It's sort of
yeah,
re-establishing, re-establishing everything from Rose.
yeah, making the point, yeah.
Yeah, but I love how, like, with the spaceship crash, it's like this big event, and I love how, you can see it on the news and, like, how people react to it. They're partying, like, welcome aliens, and it feels very much how we would react to it.
100%. It's not like oh my god, we're gonna die. It's literally like people partying in the street.
Yeah, it does feel quite realistic.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's like, I like all the little plot threads with like the spaceship crash and Rose returning after 12 months and the mystery with the Slitheen and what's actually going on. And there's some really good mystery, and the cliffhanger is really good. Thank you for giving us your ID cards. They'll help to identify the bodies.
And then
everyone gets electrocuted, and the Slitheen are finally revealed.
Yeah, it's very scary, put it like that.
Yeah, very good cliffhanger, I think. So something else I want to bring up is the whole politics. Now, everybody moans about politics in Doctor Who now, but let's just make one thing clear. Doctor Who has always been political.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
this might be this may be something I might do a video on, and like why the politics don't work now in the show with Chris Chibnall. But I mean, like obviously the Daleks are obviously inspired by the Nazis and like fascism and stuff. The John Pertwee era was very political. Like, you had like stuff about pollution, miners' strikes, stuff like that. And then series 1 is actually quite political. You've got a lot of capitalist villains like the Slitheen, Cassandra, the Henry Van Staten in Dalek, the Editor.
Yeah.
And this story is quite political. You've got obviously, because it was 2005,
it takes
so
place in 10 Downing Street as well.
10 Downing Street, a political sort of backdrop. But obviously it was taking place. Obviously, it's 2005 when it was made, so it was obviously commenting on like the Iraq War and the whole weapons of mass destruction thing, and it turns out there wasn't any, that kind of thing. It's very much commenting on that.
Yeah.
But there's also some other things I've heard. So, as we said, Slitheen are sort of capitalist villains.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned earlier about the fart jokes thing, I can't remember who it was now, but there was somebody I watched talking about this story, and they said the whole farting aliens thing is sort of like a metaphor for how politicians just talk out their arse.
I mean, now that you've said it, it does sort of sound like that. I mean, it could be one big massive metaphor, and we could just bow our heads and say thank you for your service. I mean, it could be a heroic tribute towards politicians in it, but no, I mean, Boris has said some questionable things this time.
Yeah,
so
I think every politician has really.
Yes,
but it's very much like, the politics, they're not subtle, are they?
No,
they're not. But there's multiple readings, and I think that's when it's done. And it feels like Russell was writing this with passion as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I think you need if you want to put a message into your story. You need the actual passion there, and I think Russell did the politics in this one very well.
Very well indeed.
So now let's talk about like the production values and like the CGI and the effects and stuff. So CGI, I know it's 2005, but it's not the greatest. There isn't loads in fairness.
No, it's not really used that much. I mean,
you do, but the one that sticks out to me is like when the Slitheen are actually like the costumes. It's quite they are quite cool costumes. Yeah. When you see them running about, because it is very obviously CGI. Like when they're running up and down the corridor, it is very obviously a CGI model, and it just it doesn't look nearly as good.
They look skinnier actually. They look like skinnier.
They don't look right. They don't look right. And I think when they're coming out the skin suits at the cliffhanger, it does look a bit odd as well. The spaceship doesn't look too bad. I mean, the actual the design looks pretty cool, and like the actual when it crashed into London in the Big Ben. I know that was a practical shot, but that looks quite cool.
Yeah, and then you've also got the missile right at the end.
The explosion's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, it's just a basic missile, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love the other bit, you know, the bit when the Slytherin explodes.
Oh yes.
When Mickey and Jackie defeat it, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh yes.
Some cool action scenes, some cool set pieces as well.
Yeah.
And I think they managed to recreate Downing Street quite well.
Yeah, it's obviously, I'm trying to think of the main location. You've obviously got the Hale Estate outside, obviously the block of flats, you've got the TARDIS, Bad Wolf, we'll get onto that later. You've also got Jackie's apartment.
Yeah.
And I think Mickey's apartment?
In part 2, yeah. And then it's mainly Downing Street and the Chancellor Estate, pretty much.
Yeah, cabinet rooms.
But yeah, very good.
TARDIS.
So let's talk about just some extra stuff. So we have the humour. This is a very witty story. You have to agree, don't you?
Yeah, it's a very funny episode. It's very sort of amid all the cringy fart jokes. It is.
There are some bangers. I mean, the best like fart joke is easily when obviously the Doctor realises what's going on. He farts. He's like, "Excuse me, do you mind not farting while I'm trying to save the world? Would you rather silent but deadly?" I always love that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the jokes that I always laugh at. It's not necessarily a joke, but it's just the delivery. The Margaret Blaine character when she says like, "What, you trapped in your box?" Like, it's just the way she says it.
Oh, it's funny.
Funny.
I love it. And Harriet Jones when she's like, when they fart, beg my pardon. It's just sort of that deadpan humour. It's like, you know, like a very posh character saying a rude word.
Yeah.
It's just funny, isn't it?
And then it's just. It's good. It's good.
Cracking stuff. And I think Eccleston's delivery definitely elevates it. Like, Russell definitely wrote some cracking jokes. But yeah. Anyway, so overall rating out of 10, final thoughts, summary. What would you give out of 10?
I would say 8.5 out of 10.
Very generous.
And the reason why is because, like, as a kid growing up, obviously this is a much nostalgic episode for me. Because it's like... I don't know how to put it. It's like I had one of the this.
Oh, the volume. Oh, the DVD volume.
This was very obviously this is the only place I could watch it because I don't think it was on iPlayer or anything like that growing up.
Yeah.
So I used to watch it on there, and it's very nostalgic and very
ingrained in your head.
It's like I could quote it word for word. Yeah. It's just amazing.
I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. I don't think we can really do like Team Ronnie or Team Dan, but yeah, 7.5 because it is a very entertaining story. It doesn't blow me away personally, but it's almost like, you know, like a Friday night blockbuster you'd put on with your family. It's a very easy watch, very entertaining.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, bit cringy in parts, but it's just a fun story. I enjoy rewatching it. So yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. What do you think of the this story? Do you like it? Do you not? What, you know, let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, click the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And this is Clack of the Geek and RonaparTV signing out.
Can I say it?
Yes, you can.
Can I say it, please?
Yeah.
Sub to RonaparTV, thank you.
Actually, before we go, you can plug the podcast because you do a podcast, don't you?
Oh, yeah, okay, so forget RonaparTV, that's dead. I do a podcast with my mate Ben, and it's called the SC Podcast, Stafford Canada Podcast. And it's basically all about conspiracy theories. We've got a recent episode out all about the Mandela Effect, and it's just all about topics, recent things in the news, COVID, anything that happens, and me and my mate Ben cover it. So if you'd like to go over and, you know, if you like that sort of stuff, just go over and give it a look. You know,
link will be in the description. But yeah.
Yeah.
Thought we'd plug that, actually, yeah. Anyway, now we're going to sign off. Goodbye.
Subscribe to RonaparTV.